Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
Welcome, everyone. This is Steve Meisinger, your host for today's ISE webinar. Really proud that we have Jason Ayres with us today. Jason will be talking about market indicators when they go wrong. Essentially, when you're trading, we're all going to have a forecast, but we're not always going to be right on that forecast. So Jason will be talking about what he looks at. Again, Jason is co-founder of optionsource.net. So Jason does a lot of education regarding looking at the markets, forecast, and not only that, but options trading. So Jason's a real expert regarding how you'd actively manage your trade. So he'll be talking about that. We're really pleased to have him with us. So Jason, just want to say thanks again for coming back. Really appreciate it.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's great to be back. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I think we've got a pretty interesting presentation ahead of us this evening, kind of a hybrid combination of technicals and a couple of little pieces of information that you can use to sort of read between the lines, and then moving right into a little more advanced option strategy to sort of help manage and reposition yourself. So we've got a little bit of everything tonight, and hopefully the folks online will find it helpful and interesting.
I'm sure they will, Jace. I mean, every time you come on, it's always very insightful, and we at the IC we definitely appreciate the weekly outlook that you produce. You do such a great job with that. So I would highly recommend all the attendees to please sign up for that podcast, or however you want to have that streamed to your computer, because it's really wonderful that Jason produces that over the weekend, and every Monday you can actually listen to what's going on in the FX market. So it's great. Not only that, we have index also that's available. So please check it out. Jace?
Yes, sir.
It's all yours.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well, as Steve mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about when market indicators go wrong, and we're obviously going to do that from an FX options perspective. And of course, as always, what we need to do is just highlight a little bit of a risk disclosure here. Of course, all of the examples that we're going to look at this afternoon are for educational purposes only, and certainly aren't to be construed as advice on my behalf or the ISC's behalf. Hopefully, I've covered that sufficiently, Steve, unless you have something to add.
No,
we could read the entire thing, but I don't think that's why people are here.
Right. It's obviously just important that people understand that everyone makes their own choices, and they really should get that document, because it really helps you understand options from the most simple, basic concept all the way through the most complex.
Absolutely. 888options.com, fantastic resource for basic options information. Of course, all of the different ins and outs that you need to be aware of before you actually initiate any sort of a trade. No question about it. You need to start with the basics, that's for sure. So on that note, let's move forward here. And Steve mentioned a little bit about the ISE FX Options Weekly Outlook that we publish. We post every Sunday, and available, of course, to those interested on Monday mornings. Essentially what that is it's a technical overview of the FX options pair values, and what we do is we use simple techniques to essentially look at the probability of these pair values, and of course they're US dollar based, moving in a specific direction. And what we do is we really look for clues, and again, I always use the analogy when we're talking about technical analysis, whether it's from a currency perspective or equities or what have you, as you being like a crime scene investigator, and you need to build a case in order to be confident in your bias. And what we do is we try to build that case by looking at our price charts. Once we feel that we've built a case, well, then we can move forward and initiate a trade that reflects our directional bias. And then we want to use that same information to help us lock in our profits as well as cut our losses if we happen to be on the wrong side of it. And the one thing that is extremely important when it comes to trading and investing is that we always need to keep an open mind. It's so easy for an individual to get lost in their own analysis and begin to convince themselves that they're right, when in fact, everything in front of them from a technical perspective is suggesting that they may want to reconsider. So it's important to keep an open mind, recognize that this is a business of probabilities. We want to find the opportunities with the highest probabilities, and when when things start to turn in the opposite direction, we have to be prepared to admit that we're wrong and essentially move on to another opportunity. Now, again, we're dealing with probabilities. Of course, we want to always consider that there is a point in time which we have to admit that we're wrong or take actions to remedy the situation. And that's what we're going to cover as we move forward this evening. Now, a little bit about the ISE FX options. I'm sure most of you are quite familiar by now, but we have, of course, 6 pair values that we have the ability to trade our views on. Of course, all U.S. dollar based. And as you can see on the screen here, the different pair values: the Australian dollar, the British pound, the Canadian dollar, which of course is of great interest to myself, being a Canadian trading in U.S. dollars, the euro, Swiss franc, and of course the Japanese yen. And so these are the pair values that we cover on a weekly basis. Now, a little bit about FX options. First of all, what's great about these FX options is that they're available through most standardized brokers. So regardless of who you're trading or investing with presently, as long as your account is options enabled, you will be able to access these ISE FX options pair values in order to trade your views. So they've really made a point of making sure that this market is accessible to as many people as possible. They trade very much like your standardized equity options. The difference, of course, is that versus the currency markets, that your pair value positions are cash settled in U.S. dollars. So the difference in your position from where you bought essentially to where you sold, if you've generated a profit, is not going to be paid out in the reciprocal currency. It's going to be paid out essentially in U.S. dollars.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.